There's a hot potato down in Bunbury.
Yeah, ask any parent and they'll tell you one of Dante's 9 circles of hell is basically Wiggles music on an endless loop.
What fresh hell is this?
Have you ever tried going on a road trip with a 3-year-old? By the end of it, you'll be convinced you're Captain Feathersword and you'll be willing to murder someone for a fruit salad. Yummy, yummy.
Wow!
The city of Bunbury knows this only too well because they've weaponised hot potato by the Wiggles and are using it against the local homeless population.
For shame. What did the Wiggles say?
Well, they weren't impressed.
Hot potato, hot potato.
Lucky the council didn't use the Spanish language version of the song called Papa Caliente as recorded by Latin American version of the group Los Wiggles.
Una papa muy caliente.
Because I could listen to that shit all day long. For years now, homeless people have been seeking refuge in the Graham Bricknell music shell, and the council has finally had a gutful. Of course, the council could work with homeless advocates and the Cook government to address the parlous state of crisis accommodation in the Peel and Bunbury region.
To assist in this noble cause.
But instead, they've spent the past 6 months flogging the Wiggles in the hope people sleeping rough will think listening to Toot Toot Chugga Chugga Big Red Car is worse than not having a roof over their head.
It's not an original idea, unfortunately.
Not at all. Bunbury Mayor Jason Miguel admitted that much, and the council had ripped the idea off other places around the world. It's a heartless thing to do because no one's first option is to be homeless, which is a fact I think we tend to forget sometimes. And maybe it's just me, but it'd also be pretty ironic if the council treating homeless people as freeloaders were using the Wiggles music in a public setting without paying royalties.
That would be hypocrisy.
Big news in the footy world.
Yeah, dual West Coast Premiership hero Don Pyke is officially taking over from Trevor Nisbet as new Chief Executive of the Eagles.
It's a great honour and a privilege to be back at the club that I consider my home.
You know, the bloke who did this.
It's good news for Don Pyke. Great recovery. The Eagles are going to win their first line.
And boy, does he have a job ahead of him.
God, the Eagles have been a dumpster fire this season.
Well, I think that's an insult to dumpster fires. The Eagles didn't just claim the wooden spoon, they grabbed it with both hands and nearly beat themselves to death with it.
Daddy, I've been bad. Daddy, I've been a bad boy. Oh, Daddy. Oh, Daddy. Daddy, I've been bad.
Ironically, that was about the only thing West Coast did beat this year in a season where they had 5 losses of more than 100 points. Pyke had a look at one of those up close as a coaching assistant at Sydney when the Swannies smashed the Eagles by 171 points in June.
It's a bloodbath.
The rest of the season was basically spent with Nizzy and coach Adam Simpson trying to do a real-life recreation of the Spider-Man meme. So yeah, Pyke's probably got a pretty good idea of what kind of shit show he's inheriting.
I've probably got a very simple view, which is we just got to keep getting better.
But the former West Coast best and fairest is no stranger to shit shows himself. As head coach of the Adelaide Crows in 2018, Pyke presided over one of the all-time great organisational fuck-ups in AFL history. Remember, this was a team that only a season earlier were minor premiers and made the granny. Yeah, they got hammered by Richmond at the G on the last Saturday in September, but name me an AFL team that wouldn't have been.
It wasn't the worst year.
Yeah, but despite that success, the Crows sent their players to a pre-season camp on the Gold Coast where they were subjected to the sort of abuse that wouldn't fly at Guantanamo.
Welcome to Guantanamo Bay. You boys like to spoon?
No.
Confidential info from counselling sessions was used as psychological torture. Indigenous players were disrespected, and it tore the playing group apart. They didn't make the finals that year, and Pyke fell on his sword. 2 years later, Crows star Eddie Betts gave a scathing recount of that infamous camp in his book, forcing Pyke, who had his current gig at Sydney at the time, to
apologise.
Yes, repeatedly. Look, I reckon the takeaway here is Pyke saw firsthand how organisational decisions can impact the on-field product. And that experience will come in very handy when he takes the reins at West Coast. Pyke learned the hard way what not to do. And I know a council that needs to learn the same lesson. I'm Ben O'Shea.
Two young girls, they mattered to people.
There's unexpected turns and unexpected results.